Hello and welcome to round 3. It looks like we lost the die roll and our hand is questionable. It's very close. On the draw, I'm more likely to want to keep this. Obviously, a hand that opens into Inquisition into Tarmogoyf is pretty great. We also have Fatal Push for more interaction, backup shadows. I think I'm going to keep this. It's very greedy, but depending on what we're playing against, we can certainly buy ourselves a little bit of time. A little bit of time to get there, hopefully. Caves of Koilos. So it looks like some Eldrazi and taxes. And we did draw the second land. Perfect. So I'm going to lead on Overgrown Tomb into Inquisition. Leonin Arbiter, Thalia, Tide Holyshamgar. Well, it's difficult for my opponent to cast this Tide Holyshamgar, so we can buy ourselves some time in that regard. Our opponent's going to cast Arbiter or Thalia next turn, and if I want to line my push up next turn with something, I guess I don't. I guess next turn I would like to cast this Tarmogoyf, most likely, unless I potentially draw a Street Wraith. So maybe I just take, maybe I do just take the Scholar. Just because it'll be the most annoying, although Arbiter plus that Ghost Quarter means I'll also have to leave up my push like all the time. But if I take Thalia, I can push that. But next turn I don't want to. I don't want to push next turn. I want to cast Tarmogoyf. So in that case, I think I might actually just have to take the Arbiter. It's like the most dangerous to leave my opponent with. So I'll take the Arbiter. That's the one that I should be the most worried about. If my opponent like played Ghost Quarter and just waited to the point where they could vial in Arbiter and get me that way, then I could quickly get punished if I didn't have Fatal Push up. Thalia it is. And we drew another land anyway. I think I will play it because I don't want to expose... Like, I don't care about this land, so I'd rather expose it now. Rather than fetch for a land I do care about. So I'm not leaving Fatal Push up, obviously, which does allow my opponent to Scholar me. Not that I could push in response to his Scholar anyway, since it would just perma exile a different card. So it doesn't really matter, I suppose. Yeah, it looks like we're going to get Scholared here. I could push this, since my hand is really redundant otherwise. I think I just actively don't care. Their hand is Eldrazi Temple Mystery card. Maybe I should push this. Then just plan on casting a Death Shadow. I mean, they're most likely to take a Shadow. So, or if I leave it like this, they'll take the push, right? This just doesn't matter so much. I guess it matters a little bit. I guess I just let this happen. I'm going to have to find additional ways to pay life, though, for these shadows to be relevant. So they do take the push. Alright, and I'm going to cast, I think, both of the shadows. My opponent probably have a hard time punishing that without something like Ratchet Bomb. Could randomly have like a Pontiff, but that's pretty unlikely. There's probably something else I'm not thinking about that punishes it better than those things, but Alright, so they did take their vial up to 3, play Eldrazi Temple, now have 2 mystery cards. They do not have the ability to animate their Shambling Vent. I guess the problem with this is if my opponent drew a Leonin Arbiter, I would be in a little bit of trouble. I guess we'll see here. Losing the ability to cast either of my spells when my opponent knows that those are my 2 spells could be a hassle here. Dark Confidant, okay. Would like a fetch land, perhaps? Kolaghan's Command, that's not very good. Can't cast that due to the Thalia, so maybe I should have pushed that. Then I'd have 1 less shadow, but the ability to actually cast Kolaghan's Command this turn. Obviously I did not have that kind of foresight, but pretty sure we still shove with Tarmogoyf here. There's not a lot that can go wrong, especially when I also have Battle Rages. My opponent does have a mystery card, though. It's questionable whether or not I could possibly want to fire off a Battle Rage here. I think I will just opt not to. I mean, it's basically just 3 damage, and I don't think that could be worth it here. If it's ever relevant, it is worth mentioning that I, of course, don't have Ferocious, so it wouldn't be gaining Trample. They do have the Flicker Wisp. Sure. See what they get here off their Dark Confidant. Swamp. Which they have played. This game is quickly getting out of hand. I need these shadows to be able to be attacking size. Trying a fetch land next turn would be super, super ideal, especially with this Kolaghan's Command as well. Being able to blow this up and kill Dark Confidant at the same time would be very powerful. I guess I would blow this up. No, I'm using all my mana anyway. Yeah. Blow this up, kill this. If we weren't just able to get there with our Battle Rage. Which we wouldn't, I guess. Fetchland would put this to a 4/4. So that would be 11 damage total, unblocked even. It would have to be like Street Wraith into Fetchland for Battle Rage to be lethal alone next turn. Alright. My opponent could also attack me, which would be good for me. Alright. Opponent feels like they can't attack, which certainly makes a lot of sense to me. Thoughtseize, not great. Especially because it turns off the potential for Battle Rage. Oh man, I gotta think about this. So if I grow my shadows to 3/3s, I still wouldn't even really be able to attack with them just because it would trade with a Flicker Wisp. So I guess either... I guess I attack with my Tarmogoyf first. I suppose instant would be a 4th type, but it wouldn't. Still wouldn't. Ferocious still would not work out for me. So if I hadn't drawn Thoughtseize, I think it would be worth firing this Battle Rage off, since that would be growing my Tarmogoyf for future turns, and be worth 8 damage here, putting my opponent to 5. I think instead I actually, like, I know I'm probably not hitting anything at all. But this will at least, whoops, my bad. This will at least grow my shadow. Yeah. Do they hit another Flicker Wisp? That would be very bad for me. Maybe I should have Seized up front. Oh, a Displacer, that's worse. I might have just died. I think I did just die. Displace. Displace easily, and then they can still attack with Vent. So 2, 4, 6. Yeah, I'm super dead. 8, 11, 14. Yeah, that was a pretty good draw for my opponent. Man. We ended up just being like really clunky this game. Missing on Growing Death Shadow was just an unfortunate circumstance, as well as drawing both Battle Rages when we weren't really able to even really attack. And then the late game Confidant we couldn't deal with, or the mid game Confidant we couldn't deal with. Yeah. It's a bummer. All right, going into board here. Definitely want this Fatal Push. And I think I want these Brutalities. Siding Brutality, like 2 mana removal into Thalia, feels kind of poor. It's nice that Brutalities can also check for paths, but my opponent's not very spell heavy. So even though this kills quite a few things in their deck, I'm not actually sure it's worth it. I definitely don't want to side in any white spells against the deck that's good at hitting on my mana. But I certainly don't need Fulminators. So none of these cards are even really a consideration here. So we don't have a lot we want to bring in here, but I think that's because this matchup I would typically consider to be favorable. They have a lot of X1s, so this Liliana can be quite good, even if it's hard to get on the table. Kolaghan's Command is also very versatile and powerful in that regard. I think I still want both my Terminate and my Decay, so I might not even just have room for these Brutalities. It might just be the straight 1-for-1 swap here. Discard also helps me control the pace of the game. Tarfire is actually just a great removal spell. Battle Rage can help me break through, but it's perhaps not very good. Brutalities may be better against the like Thalia Displacer Path deck. Brutalities are probably too poor. Also Thought Not Seers. Yeah, I guess my opponent just has far too much interaction for Battle Rage to really be good at all. So I think it's just a 3-for-3 exchange there. Let's try it like that. So even though my opponent may have a lot of blockers, I'm kind of focused on killing most of their creatures anyway. And I have some redundant ways to do that with things like Liliana the Last Hope. So I think that's probably my best bet here. So this hand is a keep, but not very exciting. Obviously, we got a couple discard spells and a couple redraws. I have the ability to manipulate the deck a little bit when we're looking at the top card here. So really, we're just trying to avoid lands. Death Shadow on top is great. We'll cycle right into that and then fetch a Blood Crypt. I still want an Inquisition here, I think. Next turn I can Thoughtseize into Shadow anyway. Sculler Thalia. No white mana. Not a great 6 for my opponent. How did they scry here? The problem with my opponent's hand is that it needs both mana and it needs both lands and spells. I think that was a top, right? I didn't even register that. Looks like a top. Okay. We're going to go ahead and take Sculler here, I suppose. So we'll draw a card from our bauble. Our opponent will draw whatever they scry to the top. And then we'll see what they play here. Next turn, we're just very likely to be Thoughtseizing and playing Shadow after fetching an Overgrown Tomb. So we'll be at 10 and have a 3/3. So if my opponent has any kind of removal spell that they've drawn for turn, I'll certainly take that over the Thalia, excuse me. If not, we're happy to take the Thalia, unless they tops like Thought Not Seer. I would certainly take that as well. So we'll just start here. Thalia's a great, or excuse me, Liliana's a great draw. It deals with Thalia, so of course it deals with Thalia kind of awkwardly because it comes down a turn later. Displacer is far, far more annoying. They're not able to cast either of these anyway. So Displacer's kind of a weird top there. but we will take it. Much more of a concern for me than the Thalia is. All right, so my opponent found a caves, so they can play the Thalia on time. So we know their hand to be Eldrazi Temple, Swamp, Ghost Quarter. The Inquisition is certainly not doing anything. We will attack. See if my opponent chooses to block. They do not, which certainly makes sense. And go for this here. Stomping Ground, although I might have wanted three black at some point. I'll have my opponent take 6, and I don't see a good reason to decay right now necessarily. I think I would even be happy to take the 2 damage and decay whatever they may have as a blocker. If they follow up with an additional creature. If they have Thought Knot Seer here, I suppose I would want to decay. If they have Reality Smasher, I definitely want to decay. No attacks. Did they draw another Displacer? Okay, well, I'm definitely going to decay that. That's quite an issue. And if I draw an additional land, we can deal with this Thalia with this Liliana. Bobble, not the best draw into Thalia. I guess we'll attack first. So I could actually, I probably should correct this on my own turn. Yeah, I definitely should correct this on my own turn. I was thinking about discard spells and the like, but I could have died to Smasher there. Path on top for my opponent. That's no good for me. Found another threat and a Brutality. Brutality is likely to be no good here. We will... Oh, I could have just killed my opponent because this is on top. I was thinking briefly this is in my hand. This is obviously a misplay. I want to Brutality this and hope that they have nothing. This is on top of their library. They have Swamp Mystery card. That's okay. We'll go ahead and attack for 6. And then we'll still have 2 lethal threats next turn when they have this. So yeah, they get to block. Definitely a bit of a misplay there. But I think we will fight through it, no problem. A brain misfire in a sense. Alright, so they still have Swamp Path now. But we have this Brutality to fire off after we attack, so no problem. As far as game 3, I do not think we want to sideboard any differently just because we're on the draw, although you can make the argument that anything that costs more mana is going to be worse. It's a lot easier for my opponent to tax my mana on the play, whether that be through Arbiter plus Ghost Quarter or Thalia or what have you. So you could argue the 3s need to get shaved, but these 3s are just so powerful in the matchup, and I've already shaved Liliana, this Liliana of the Veil, that I think these are just too good to shave on here. So we'll take that risk, so to speak, and leave the 3 or the 4 of them, excuse me, there. We're still pretty efficient curve-wise here with 22 1s, 8 0s, and 8 2s. And there's really not much I can do sideboard-wise to get more efficient than that. This hand looks great. It's got some discard, some ways to pay life, and a shadow. So happy to see it. And this matchup I definitely want to fetch sooner rather than later. If I draw another Street Wraith here, okay, now that I have a 3rd land, I definitely want to fetch again, or I want to fetch before Street Wraithing. And then if I draw an additional Street Wraith, I can actually turn one a shadow, which is pretty rare, but it does come up. Grab a Tomb here, shock off of that, and see if we hit another Street Wraith. Okay, we did not. Not a huge surprise. Inquisition. All right, opponent's hand, definitely better this time. Arbiter, though, not very exciting without Ghost Quarter Path or anything like that. I'm just going to take this Displacer. They can cast it next turn, and it's a huge issue for us. And we don't have a fetch land anymore with which to combo with this push we just drew. So Displacer will hit the bin here. If our opponent draws a white-black source, they can certainly cast Scholar on turn 2 instead of Arbiter, which would be kind of a bummer. But they do not. They just cast Arbiter here. So I'm going to lead on Thoughtseize. See a Flicker Wisp. I have a lot of lands. My opponent currently has no way to leverage this Arbiter, so I think I don't need to like take this, kill the other one. I think I just take the Tidehollow Scholar here because it's going to be mildly annoying, leaving my opponent with Arbiter Wisp. And I think I will double up on Overgrown Tombs here and play Death Shadow. 3 card types currently in the yard, although Fatal Push will be the 4th. I will have to remember, of course, that these Arbiters interact favorably for my opponent with my Traverse. So something to keep in mind. And maybe more of an argument for dealing with these Arbiters instead of... Okay, well, I've drawn another push now, so now it's not even a real concern, I suppose. But what I was going to say was maybe an argument for treating the last couple discards a little differently, although I think Displacer was a must-take, and Tidehollow Scholar I think was going to be just as annoying since it basically just gets to take a push. I believe it's pretty important for me to deal with these now for 2 reasons. Now that I have 2 pushes, I can kill them both and have this Traverse be easy to work with. I know they only have an Arbiter otherwise, and when I let them untap, they're going to have Flicker Wisp off of the Vial. So I think we'll just deal with these. Also keep my life total high enough that I just can't, I'm not just going to die to like Flicker Wisp, EOT, take out a blocker, and get you with Shambling Vent and Flicker Wisp. Which probably means I'm not going to shock next turn either, which is a mild bummer because it means I'm not on a 2-turn clock, although I can just hold this in my hand and do it the following turn. Plus, I'm also going to be traversing for another threat next turn, so things are still okay. Tarfire to deal with that Flicker Wisp is not bad. We'll get in for 6 if our opponent doesn't just Wisp it. And 1 mystery card. Alright, the mystery card was Path. So that's not great for me. But it's not the end of the world. We're still very far ahead here with... definitely going to grab a Shadow here. My opponent could also have Rest in Peace or something like that. Play Shadow. And I'm going to postpone this decision once more. I imagine my opponent Flicker Wisps here. I will kill the Flicker Wisp with my Tarfire, I believe. I think I will do that post their Aether Vial decision before their draw step. So now they have whatever they just drew for turn. We get our Death Shadow. Okay, so now that I've drawn Fatal Push, do I feel comfortable shock attacking? I could push the Shambling Vent to not die. I still think I like being a little conservative here. I can shock next turn and still have that be lethal over the course of these 2 turns. So let's just hold that Shrine for now. Oh my gosh. Another removal spell off the top. Well, that's not good for me. Now we're just at near parity. Obviously, I have a push, but they have Shambling Vent and this Aether Vial, so somewhere near parity. All right. With that, I will play it, especially in the case that my opponent could draw a Thought Knot Seer. Arbiter. All right. Gonna wait to push that, and I'm not gonna use my fetch land in response either. I want to save that. Somewhat. Another Delta. Well, that's not great for me. Still think I don't really want to push this. Feel like I'm okay taking the 2 here. Opponent drew a vial, that's good for me. And I'm gonna need a threat here. Okay, we drew another land here. This is a bummer. I think we're gonna be in a lot of trouble here. Probably can't take another hit from this Arbiter, so on my opponent's upkeep, I will Fatal Push that. It's possible they get to hit us with this Shambling Vent now. All right, looks like they have drawn... Oh, no, they're getting them with Shambling Vent. Okay. So we'll pretend like we have something to think about in this regard. But we are going to be taking that damage, obviously. All right, found a Traverse just in time. Hopefully our opponent's last card is not another removal spell that they've drawn here. I don't have like Ranger Vios in post-board against this deck since I don't want to require white mana for anything. So we're going to grab a Shadow. It is quite large. And we'll see if our opponent does, in fact, have another removal spell. There's been a card that they have been holding that has not been a land, and also not been a creature. So not a great sign for us. But we can hope, I suppose. Thalia. My opponent's at 13 too, which is not great for me since I can't hit them in one shot without, you know, going to 0. Fatal Push was an excellent draw. So I have to decide now. I guess I want to see how my opponent behaves here. I will give them the opportunity to chump. They do not chump. Oh. It's a Fatal Push again. That is brutal. I think I would rather kill the Shambling Vent than the Thalia. I'm taking some risk of Flicker Wisp, but I basically can't beat Flicker Wisp anyway. So I will, I'll just say go here. Man, we were very far ahead early in this game, but it has been a struggle since then. All right, so we're going down to 1 here. Need a good draw here. And we also need that card in my opponent's hand to be no good. Dotsies. Well, we lost. I guess that's it for us, but I will hopefully we can pull it together and do a little bit better here, but I will see you in round number 4.